Hello everyone! Space Fishy here, and welcome to episode 1 of my Stardew Valley Expanded Let's Play. We are playing on the 1.6 update of Stardew Valley Expanded, so we are playing on the Frontier Farm map, which means, as you can see, we are starting with this nectarine tree instead of our usual parsnips. So, after an obligatory reorganize of my hotbar, I started clearing out my farm, as any day 1 Stardew player does. And I completely forgot how annoying early game is when you don't have, like, the magnet ring yet. But eventually, as I was clearing things out, I noticed 2 new trees that I hadn't seen before in vanilla Stardew Valley, which are actually part of Stardew Valley Expanded. So I ended up noticing the tree in the left and the tree in the bottom, the birch tree and the fir tree. At this point, I decided to clear out a little spot in my backyard to place my nectarine tree, since the idea of a little backyard orchard is, quite frankly, absolutely adorable. Normally, I would spend hours agonizing over things like fruit tree placement, but since 1.6 actually gives you back the fruit tree sapling when you cut down the tree, this was a pretty low-stakes decision for me. Now, at this point, I made my first chest. Now, all of my crafting recipes here are from a mod called Nano's Garden Craftables, and they are honestly just the cutest. I will link a mod list in the description if anyone is interested in what I am using. Now, since this was my first time playing on the Frontier Farm map, I did have to familiar myself a bit with where things are. So it looks like if I head to the right, I'm headed into town, pretty much similar to vanilla. So I headed that way, because despite the first quest giving me a nectarine tree, I still do need to plant those parsnips for the getting started farming quest. So I headed to Pierre's to do that. Morris's birthday here is on the 2nd. I admittedly have no idea what to do for him because he is not in vanilla, so I guess we will find out. I bought a couple of parsnips, but I did take note of cucumber seeds, which are, in fact, Stardew Valley Expanded. At this point, I decided to go see who around town I could possibly meet, since we do have to meet everyone for a quest. I met Sam, the blonde-haired guitar player. I met Leah, the cute little woodworker who lives on the outskirts of town in the forest. I met Sophia, who owns a vineyard south of town. I met Andy, the gruff, Joja-loving farmer. He said it. He said the line, "It ain't much, but it's honest work." And we met Haley, who honestly spent most of her time ignoring us and taking pictures. At this point, I headed back to my farm and cleared up a little bit of the stuff in the way because, you know, I couldn't actually get from the entrance to my farm all the way up to my farmhouse with all the debris in the way. And it was at this point that I finally tilled some soil after a brief pear break and actually planted my first 9 parsnips that I purchased from Pierre's. After this quick pause for farming, I headed up north to see who else I could finish meeting before the day is out, because Expanded does add some new characters to meet. I met Linus, who lives in a tent north of town, and I met Demetrius, Robin's husband. I met Pam, Pelican Town's alcoholic number 1, Gus, the owner of the saloon, Emily, who, dare I say it, crystal girly with blue hair and pronouns. And I met Shane, Pelican Town's number 2 alcoholic, who gave me the rudest welcome I could possibly have wanted. At this point, it was pretty late, so I headed down for everybody's favorite 8:20 p.m. spring onion run. Classic, what can I say? And after harvesting all of the spring onions that I could, I made my way up back towards my farm. Now, getting back onto my farm, I noticed it was pretty dark, so I decided to make a couple of torches, and I opened my crafting menu, and you may say, hang on, now where are the torches? They're really hard to see in the menu, but I downloaded the cutest mod called Firefly Torches that turns the regular, ugly little torches into these cute little sets of fireflies. I thought they were just absolutely the most adorable thing, and I spent most of the rest of the day placing a couple firefly torches and just sitting there admiring how cute and whimsical they are. After putting away all of my spoils of the day and heading to the shipping bin to sell my most prized Silver Star spring onion, obviously, I decided to call it a night and head to bed. Well, that was a great first day. Time to see what money I made. Hold on. You have got to be kidding me. Day 1 fairy. I mean, all she's going to do is grow my parsnips, which really isn't that much, but honestly, thank you for your service. We appreciate you. So, with a level up in foraging and an absolutely whopping 10 gold earned to my name, we finally called it a day on our first day of Stardew Valley Expanded. Climbing out of bed bright and early on day 2, I came outside and found all of my perfectly grown parsnips courtesy of the crop fairy that came through last night. But that was not the best part of the day. Willie had sent me the letter that meant that I was going to get my fishing rod today, so you already know what we're going to be doing today, right after I harvested my parsnips. This was fortuitous timing, because Emily had a quest requesting a sardine, which was extremely doable. It was also Morris's birthday, and I had to admit I had no idea what Morris might have liked. So, hope it's a pear, parsnip, or a daffodil, I guess. Luckily, he did in fact end up liking parsnips, so not completely a loss. And that actually, funny enough, puts Morris at our top spot for hearts at the moment. Heading back into town to head to Pierre's, we ran into Martin, whose manager held a meeting about me. This became much more clear when he revealed that he worked part-time at Joja Mart. And as he headed off to do his job, we made sure we wouldn't get him in trouble, and we headed into Pierre's to buy our seeds for the day, just in time. This brings us to my favorite segment, Counting with Space Fishy, where I attempted to make sure I got exactly 9 seeds. So that's 3 parsnips, for those of you keeping count, 1 bean, which makes 4, 1 cucumber, which makes 5, 1 cauliflower, which makes 6, and 3 potatoes for 7, 8, 9. And of course I have to recount to make sure I got the right number, because I do not trust my basic counting skills. Heading down to the beach after this, of course we got our cutscene with Willie, which is going to get us our fishing rod. I find that some people in Stardew Valley love the fishing game, and some people in Stardew Valley end up hating the fishing game, and you usually don't find too many people who are in between and are kind of meh on the fishing game. I happen to be one of the people that loves the fishing game, so you will definitely see me doing a lot of fishing in this playthrough, especially with all of the additional fish that Stardew Valley Expanded adds, most of which I do not know where or how to catch, so that is going to be a fun adventure for later in the playthrough. And with that, we had our first fishing rod of the playthrough, our bamboo pole, which we immediately equipped. Instead of getting fishing right away, you may notice my inventory is a little bit full. Rookie mistake, I know. So after a quick trip home to plant all of the seeds we had just bought and free up some inventory space, we were back at the pier for plenty of fishing. After Willie came and bothered us a little bit for our spot, I decided maybe it was best to get out of his way, so I ended up taking a little bit of a change of scenery and heading up to the river for some river fishing. But on our way, we ran into Elliot, who is such a hard character to pin down early game. We got to have our first conversation with him. He mentioned his cabin on the beach, which is the bane of any Stardew Valley player's existence when it's so hard to get in there before you befriend Elliot, and we began river fishing. At this point, I wanted to make sure that we had time in our day to deliver Emily's sardine to her that she had requested, so we stopped off at the saloon to drop it off. This netted us a lovely 120 gold, which is nothing to laugh at in the early game, and we met Clint, probably my least favorite NPC. If you start your sentence with maybe there's a better opener you could have found. After a quick bit of night fishing, we headed back to the farm to sell off some of the many fish we had caught today. I also saved quite a few because, in all honesty, I could not remember what I needed for the early community center fish bundle, so I figured it was better safe than sorry. So with that, we headed to bed, and with a level up in fishing and a sweet, sweet 344 gold made from all of our fish that day, we ended day 2. The morning of day 3 greeted us with something very welcome, rain, which meant I would not have to waste any energy on watering my crops. After harvesting my pear tree, I did a little exploring around the farm. I found this minecart that of course does not work yet. I found my very first geode, which I will have to make a note to bring to Clint at some point. And after that, I headed down to the river to do a little bit more fishing. You'll notice my playstyle is definitely a bit disjointed. I don't tend to do things in an order that makes sense, but I am really hoping to work on that with this playthrough. So after selling my catch, I ended up doing a little more exploring, and I found an apricot tree that was unfortunately blocked in by some stumps. I also found the greenhouse, which was a little bit north of the farmhouse. I found another minecart that unfortunately does not work yet. I found a persimmon tree, which was again blocked in by 3 large logs. I found a shortcut down to Cindersap Forest. I found a nectarine tree next to the one I had already planted, but again, unfortunately, blocked in by some large logs. And later, I headed to the Stardrop Saloon to see who was there that evening and get a little bit of friendship going with all of the townspeople. At that point, it was 10 p.m., so after a fairly unproductive day, we headed to bed. 4 was shaping up to be just as unproductive as the day before, since I did not really have a plan. I got taunted by Pierre for a backpack I cannot afford, probably for a little bit. I harvested my pear tree, and I watered my crops as any morning starts. After that, I did a little bit of mountain lake fishing, catching a couple of new fish. I headed back to the farm to sell a little bit of my catch, and I did a little bit more cleaning and exploring. I found a cherry tree all the way to the west of the farm that was blocked in by some large boulders. And I also found this bridge that's broken. I'm not sure where that's going to go, but I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit before we get to explore. The energy situation at this point was dire, so I ate a spring onion before I was able to plant the rest of my mixed seeds. And then I went to the saloon where Shane absolutely slandered my produce. Disrespectful. The absolute audacity. Luckily, my day perked up with a trash can baked fish and a couple of pets to Dusty, which is realistically the best thing about Stardew Valley Expanded, and I called it a day on day 4. Day 6 started out with the best thing that possibly could happen. Good morning, Marnie. Hello, Space Fishy. Hello, Marnie. You see this cat here? Yes, I do. Oh, stop. The baby. I found it sitting outside the entrance to your farm. I think it's a stray. Poor little thing. Oh, kitty. I think it likes this place. Hey, don't you think this farm could use a good cat? Absolutely I do. Without question, I will adopt this cat. And we're gonna call this little baby Nova. It kind of goes with the whole space thing we have going on with Space Fishy and Galaxy Farm, and I just think, honestly, it's a really cute name for a little black cat. Well, little Nova, you be a good kitty now, okay? Marnie, I am going to cry. You are going to reduce me to tears. Look at the baby. But the exciting developments of the morning did not end there. We got a letter from JojaMart telling us that the landslide has been removed, and you guys know what that means. After watering our crops, we hit the mines for the first time. Now, as you can see, in Stardew Valley Expanded, the mines are actually in a different spot. You have to go past where they normally are, all the way up to this new little hilltop where the Adventurers Guild is located. We were greeted upon entering the mines by a cutscene. Marlin, what is up, my friend? Imbued with magic. That must be an expanded thing. I do not remember that being in the vanilla game. I just remember getting the rusty sword. That's pretty cool, though. So, yeah, not the best mines run in the entire world. The energy situation has been dire. So, I headed home, And at this point, I was actually able to do the biggest step of this day of the playthrough. I made a second chest. I know, I'm positively wealthy at this point. I use the same chest organization system as I do in literally every of my Stardew Valley playthroughs in my almost 2,000 hours of this game. So I created the black colored chest, which is for mining goodies and gems and stone and things like that. And I was actually able to sort all of my goodies, which was honestly the biggest accomplishment of that day. It was Friday night, so the saloon was poppin'. I got a chance to say hi to plenty of the Pelican Town townspeople. Okay, Clint. Robin and Demetrius were a little bit busy dancing with each other, which, understandable. And we also met Olivia, the resident MILF of Pelican Town in Stardew Valley Expanded. Call me a cutie again, Olivia. Okay. You'll love to see it. We also got a chance to meet Olivia's son, Victor, one of the other characters we had not met yet, added by Stardew Valley Expanded. And we, of course, said hi to Abigail, Sam, and Sebastian. I don't really know you. Yeah, I know Sebastian. That's why I'm talking to you. I'm trying to get to know you, man. Good lord. We formally met Marnie as well. I think you'll love having a little friend on the farm with you. So true, Marnie. I absolutely will. You're making great points here. It's simpler to be friends with the trees. Based, as always, Leah. Dare I say it, based. And with that, we turned in for the night of the 5th. On the morning of day 6, we woke up to a visitor. Because we had obtained copper ore the night before, Clint delivered us the furnace blueprint, which is going to come in real handy at this point. I would love to start stockpiling up some copper ore so we can get copper bars and upgrade some of our tools. Now, to be quite honest, for the rest of the day, I kind of did nothing much that was particularly productive. I was hoping to get most of the spring forageables before the community center opened. I don't know why I thought that was going to be today. It absolutely was not. So we headed to a part of Cindersap Forest added by Stardew Valley Expanded, where we found the Aurora Vineyard, as you can see, and tried to grab as many forageables as we possibly could. Actually, I lied. Something important did happen today. Hello? Shane, you're upset, but where are you? I literally spent like several minutes trying to find where Shane was that he could possibly be upset that he saw me digging in that trash can. I literally could not find him anywhere. Bro just straight up vaporized. I even checked the map. I could not find where he possibly could have been that he could have seen me grab that Joja Cola. Alright, Shane, alright. You know, confusing. We also met Caroline, Pierre's wife, and we also met Claire, a Stardew Valley Expanded character who works at Joja Mart. She clearly didn't really want much to do with us. After giving some gifts, we headed back to the farm, and we got our first furnace ready. Nano's Garden Craftables, I owe you my life. Look how cute that furnace is. Is that not the cutest thing you've ever seen? For now, we're going to pop it over here, but we are going to do some fun stuff with our furnaces and the Automate mod later. So now that we've got our first copper bar going, I made sure that we were able to grab that achievement and grab that copper bar when it was done. At this point in the evening, it was starting to get dark, and when I went up to water Miss Nova's water bowl, I noticed it was a little bit dark up by her little house, and that simply will not do. So we crafted a couple more of those adorable firefly torches and placed them all up around the pet area, that way Nova can have some light at night. And with that, we called it a day on day 6. That is our first week of Stardew Valley Expanded done. Thank you all so much for joining me, and until next time, this has been Space Fishy.